HTPC crowd, this is Chris Corey with Somifa, that's me in the middle of the sofa, back with another build. There is nothing better than an HTPC. If you want a game better than a console, rip Blu-rays that will give you higher quality than streaming, listen to hi-fi music, use a true web browser. I don't think y'all understand how great a web browser is on your TV, and being creative and get work done from the comfort of your sofa on the largest monitor that you own. So I'm building a brand new productivity / gaming HTPC with an NVIDIA RTX 5070 Ti and Ryzen 9900 X3D. So in this video, I will be going over the parts, show a time-lapse video of the entire build, then some testing, some benchmarks, and some gaming. Now, if you want a full step-by-step guide with my commentary, please subscribe to my Patreon, as I will be posting a video that will show you and walk you through the entire build. Let's get into this build. For CPU, I use an AMD Ryzen 9900 X3D. This is the little brother to the 9950 X3D, which is the ultimate gaming and productivity CPU. With this HTPC build, I'm aiming for great gaming and productivity performance, but I chose this CPU over the 9950 X3D because of its lower default TDP of 120 watts compared to the 170 watts of the 9950 X3D. I'll be air cooling this CPU, and because of the limited CPU cooler option, because of the size of the case, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a very high TDP and my CPU would be hard to cool. Also, I got a great combo deal on this CPU with the motherboard that gave me a $100 discount. I feel that this is in line with what the price should be for the 9900 X3D. Once it's discounted around $500, people will be saying this is a sleeper CPU. Next up is the GPU. I'm using the ASUS TUF Gaming RTX 5070 Ti. This was a tough decision, no pun intended, between the AMD 9070 XT, but I went with the 5070 Ti because it edged out the 9070 XT in productivity, and it's a bit more efficient, and it has better ray tracing performance. Other than that, I would have gone with the less expensive 9070 XT, which is a great GPU. Also, the 5070 Ti has two HDMI 2.1B ports, which is a must-have for my 2 TV setup, and also has 3 display ports, which I also need for my desk monitors and workbench monitor. Yes, my PC runs 3 stations in my living room. I made a video on this, and you can check it out here. For motherboard, I went with the GIGABYTE X870E AORUS Pro Ice V1.1. This motherboard was perfect for me, I felt, and has a lot of cool features. It supports AMD 9000 series processors, has 2 USB 4 ports on the back. It supports a 5.0x16 PCIe graphics card. It has an interesting HDMI front port for cases with a front monitor. Silverstone, holla at your boy, I got some ideas. It has an easy latch system for easily installing M.2 SSDs and their heat sinks. It supports up to 4 M.2 NVMe SSDs, with 3 of those being PCIe Gen 5.0 slots. But if you use more than 2 of these slots in 5.0 mode, you will reduce the main GPU slot to PCIe 5.0 by 8. So the SSDs I use for the OS programs and general files will go into the slower PCIe, and I will use the 5.0 slot for larger files I use for video editing. Speaking of SSDs, I use the Samsung 990 EVO SSD and the faster Samsung 990 EVO Plus SSD, which will go into the faster slot. For memory, I went with the G.Skill Trident Z5 Neo Series AMD Expo, DDR5 RAM, 64 gigabytes, which are 2 32 gigabyte sticks, It has 6,000 mega transfers per second and a cache latency of 30. Also, make sure that you check out the motherboard's website and look under memory support to make sure that you have the correct memory that supports this motherboard. For power supply, I went with the Corsair RM1000E 80 Plus Gold, which is fully modular, supports ATX 3.0 and PCIe 5.0. And it has 0 fan mode. This power supply is probably more than enough for my build, but maybe I'll upgrade my GPU or our CPU in the future, so I want to have some room for growth. For case, I went with the Silverstone Grandia 11. If you want to build a gaming HTPC with little to no compromise, this is the only case to buy on the market right now. It has no competition. It has a horizontal form factor. It's roomy and easy to build in, has nice front I/O, and it looks like a piece of home theater audio gear. The only thing that I don't like is the Silverstone logo and the name in the front. To me, it kind of cheapens the look. I bought a pack of 5 case fans, the Arctic P12 PWM PST. I'll be installing these 5 fans in the case and removing the 2 case fans that actually comes with the Silverstone Grandia, just so I can have more control because those fans aren't PWM. As for CPU cooler, I use the Thermalright Peerless Assassin 120 Mini. This is one of the best air coolers you can get under the 146 millimeter case cooler height limit for the Silverstone Grandia 11, and it's easy to install. One accessory I had to buy was the JZY Mod USB 3.0 header extension cable, because the USB header cable that's connected to the case kind of gets in the way of 2 of the fans on the GPU side. So I bought this header because it folds down kind of nicely and it won't get in the way of those 2 fans. Other than that, all you need is a screwdriver. I recommend a PH2 head, but sometimes you might need just an assortment of different screwdrivers, different lengths and sizes, so you can get some of those tight to reach spots. So for OS, I will be installing Windows 11 Pro. I'm not gonna go over that in this build, and I'll link a video that will guide you through the installation of Windows 11 Pro. That's all for the parts. Let's get into the build. All right, when you first enter the BIOS, you want to make sure that your memory is operating at the correct speed, and it's not here. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to Enable Expo 1 and turn on high bandwidth support. And you want to save and exit. Okay, now that I have drivers installed and most of my programs installed, I want to check out how things perform under stress. So first we're gonna run the CPU burner in firmware. And we'll check out our temperatures here in hardware monitor. Temperatures climb pretty fast. I'm hoping we get around, well, no higher than 85 degrees. But this is a kind of small form factor build, so it could go even higher. So after running a CPU stress test with firmware CPU burner for about 5 minutes, we're getting about 83 degrees Celsius. And this may be affected by the ambient temperature in your living room, but this isn't dangerously bad. It is a bit hot, but I would expect this from a 120 watt CPU in this size case with the cooler that we use. Now let's check the GPU. So the ASUS RTX 5070 Ti Tough Gaming OC is running very cool, and I'm very surprised by this. These are really good temperatures, running below 68 Celsius. This is pretty doggone cool for such a powerful GPU. So they did a great job with the designing the cooling for this GPU. And possibly we can overclock. I won't be doing that in this video, but these are promising temperatures. Let's test 4K HDR playback in YouTube. And we have no drop frames, and it's playing back 4K HDR quite well. I think this is the first time I've seen like 0 drop frames. This is smooth and nice and looks really good on my end. And 3D Mark still Nomad, I got a score of 6,873 with the graphics test at 68.74 frames per second. This is pretty good and what's expected. In Time Spy, I got a score of 24,941. You can see the graphics score and the CPU score. This is pretty good. These are the Cinebench scores. So this is the benchmark for Forza Horizon 5. And once this benchmark is over, we can see how it performs. I pretty much set everything to ultra settings. And this is in 4K with no DLSS. So in this benchmark, we got 112 frames per second. And you can see all of my settings on the left side. This was in 4K with things set to 120 hertz. So 112 frames per second isn't bad. If you want to push it up to that 120 hertz, you could just add some DLSS. So this is Cyberpunk, and here are my settings. Everything is pretty much high. Even have ray tracing on and resolution scaling off and frame generation. So let's see how it performs with these high settings. And oh, I forgot, this is in 4K also. All right, let's run the benchmark. All right, so with these results, you see we only got 28 frames per second. We're gonna try this again with DLSS. Okay, this is our benchmark with DLSS turned up to performance. And let's see how this runs. Wow, we're getting 200, almost 200 frames per second. Everything looks pretty okay. So that was more than playable for me. You can see the frames per second, over 200 frames per second. Yes, frame generation was on up to 4x, and everything looks good to me. I have seen some videos with problems with frame generation, especially turned up to this high. But this is just the power of DLSS, and we got 204. We can actually turn this down some, so we'll probably have, you know, some of those, less of those issues. So great job, PC. So this is a game that's rarely benchmarked, but I was curious, and it seems like the performance is great with this system. I know a lot of people don't benchmark this. Maybe they don't play it. I'm not sure, but 2K is a staple in my gaming life. I love sports games. Would try Madden also, but I know there's a lot of stop and go and animations in Madden. But as you can see, with this setup, you don't have to worry at all. The 5070 Ti runs this no problem at 120 frames per second. So if you want to play this on your TV, this is a great gaming setup for this type of game. This is Ghost of Tsushima at very high settings and at 4K. This time I decided to keep on DLSS, and we will see how this performs. As you can see, this is a nice frame rate. This scene is actually at sunset, so the colors may look a little strange, but as you can see in this open world video game, with DLSS, we're getting about 113 frames per second, which is pretty doggone good. This is a great PS5 port. This is a really, really good looking game. All right, guys, this is the end of the video. Just to mention a few more things, the sound was excellent. You really don't hear the PC at idle, and you can play with the fan curves to, you know, make that even better. When I was gaming and I was running the stress test, I could hear the fans, but it was not an annoying noise. And if I'm gaming, you know, I have my speakers up pretty loud, so that's not a problem at all. Also, I was able to get 4K HDR on Netflix. I couldn't show that in the capture, but that was achievable. And overall, this has been one of my best build experience. And if you like this content, and or if you're interested in building this type of PC, I have the full build guide on my Patreon. And remember to subscribe for more HTPC content. I will be having more builds like this coming soon. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.